sprint planning meeting. That's two. Just as a side note for when to do the sprint planning meeting, most people will think of Monday as a good day to do sprint planning meeting, and it might work. There's another day that's I think is more suitable for planning in general. The Monday's planning is difficult because when people come back from a weekend, 2 days of having fun, doing their own thing, head, focusing on other, mind focusing on other things. When you come back on Monday, you kind of gotta restart your car, right? You restart your motor. Like you gotta remember what you did the week before, how the demo was and all of that, and now you can plan. So that takes time. When you plan on Fridays, especially after the demo, welcome to Strategy Shift podcast, where we talk about strategy in business, product, sales, marketing, and more. Today's topic is Scrum, a software development methodology that has quadrupled productivity in the tech sphere. Most importantly, I will show you how you can apply Scrum to improve your day-to-day activities in your business. So what is Scrum? Scrum is a framework that is used by software developers all over the world to build products, to build software applications incrementally and deliver the most value to their end users or customers. It was created by Jeff Sutherland, John Scammutales, and Jeff McKenna in 1993, and it was first implemented at the corporation that they worked in called Easel Corporation. See, back in the day, and still today in some places, when software developers built applications, built software for end users for their company or to sell, they followed this process that was very similar to construction or how we build houses. For example, when you build a house, right, what are the steps that are involved building a house? First, you go to the architect. The architect will design the house. How many rooms do you want? How big is it? And which rooms go where? Like if you want a washroom here, kitchen there, all of that. So you kind of you have this blueprint of work that you then take to a developer, to a construction developer, not a software developer, and you give it to the contractor and you say, I want you to build me this, right? And the contractor goes and goes, all right, I can see, and it'll have 3 floors, basement, 10 rooms, and they will be organized in this way. The contractor then brings the people together, they build a house, and then once the contractor is done, you see the house, you're like, all right, this is sort of what it looked like on the drawings from the architect. This is what I want. The process made sense for building houses or building buildings and things like that, because you sort of know what you want. You want the house with, a bedroom, a kitchen, bathrooms, family living room, and all that. You know how big it is. You know how much you can afford, right? You have this budget. And when software was kind of growing up, as it became, more mature, it followed this process because it made sense. You designed you went to your user, whoever is going to be the end user of your software. You asked what their problem was. They told you. You kind of wrote this down, like, okay, so what else do you need? What else do you need? Then you designed it, architected, and then you gave it to your developers. Developers built it, tested it, and gave it back to you. Like, is this what you wanted? Just like a house, and in software world, it's probably a bit more pronounced. It would take a long time to build this. The problem was, well, in the house, you know what you need because you've seen many examples. You know what houses look like. You can tell I want this type of house. I want this type of size of the bedroom. In software, you don't really know what you really need because there's no other examples that you can kind of draw upon. There's a lot of unknowns. You might have a problem that you talk about. You might understand what you need solved, but you don't really have the ability to imagine how it could be solved unless you are in the software world. So you tell the architect, the software architect, what you need to do, what you want. The architect kind of designs it, and then this whole process would take months. And sometimes in the end, more often than not, in the end, what you got was not what you actually wanted. The piece of software was not solving the problem right away or correctly, in the right way or at all, right? So Jeff and John understood this from working in the software world, and they realized that the process of building software following the construction methodology or construction way was actually detrimental to the whole software process. You wasted a lot of money, didn't get what you wanted. It had to be a better way. So they came up with this Scrum framework, and the Scrum framework is helps solve that problem. How do you build something that you don't know when you don't know what you need to build, right? How do you deliver value to your client, to your customer, without knowing exactly what's going to work for them until they actually have it in their hand, until they use it? They need to use the software in order to be able to tell you if it works or not. But if you take a long time to build it and before you give it to them, it's money that could be spent, that could be wasted. So Jeff and company put together Scrum. And Scrum is a very simple process. First truth of Scrum that they understood and they wanted to convey was that long-term planning is useless because you don't know what's going to happen in the future. You can't predict the future. You don't know if it's going to work out the way you want. So you wanted to limit that planning cycle to a shorter time frame. So what they did was they said, okay, how about this? How about instead of working on a year schedule, for example, how about we work on a smaller schedule? This fixed, we're going to deliver something to our users every, say, 2 weeks. This is how sprints were born. One sprint is a fixed duration work cycle, usually from 1 to 4 weeks in length, that is time boxed and allows you to give something to the end user at the end of it, right? So the goal is to make something that's valuable and usable and then give it to the user at the end. Sprints will give you that short-term planning, but that wasn't it. You can just kind of do the first thing, limit your work to 2 weeks and then everything will be good. The next step would be to define some sort of process that a team would follow that would help with this whole delivering value and making sure that you're building the right thing process. In Scrum, the process was very simple. See, a lot of people spend a lot of time in meetings. And when you spend a lot of time in meetings, there's everybody talking and you don't really get work accomplished. Scrum helps you take that time that you spend in meetings and shorten it to a smaller chunk by identifying the important parts that you need to meet about and then leaving everything else up to the team to decide and let them focus on the actual work. So in the Scrum process, let's say it's 2 weeks, the first thing you do is plan your week and plan your sprint. You define a goal for the sprint. What do you want to accomplish? Let's say you're building a form for, to collect customer feedback. So we'll say by the end of 2 weeks, I want to be able to see the form, right? Doesn't matter what it is. I just want it to have, name, email, and comment. That's it. So that's your goal for the 2 week sprint. What do you need to accomplish to build that form? You list out all the tasks that need to be done to build the form. That creates your backlog. So that happens during the Scrum planning meeting that, at the beginning of the sprint. Let's say it's a Monday. It's about an hour to 90 minutes. You define a goal and the steps that needed to achieve the goal. Your whole team is part of it. You come together and you figure out what you need to do. And then once you've done it, you assign bits of work to each team member and say, you're going to work on this, you're going to work on this, you're going to work on this. And you let them go. Let them do their thing. To stay on top of, what's happening and, make sure you don't miss any important issues, the next step is to create a daily stand-up Scrum daily meeting. So this happens all the other days except for the iteration for the Scrum planning meeting. At the beginning of the day, you bring the team together. You stand together in a circle. That's the name, the stand up. You all stand together, and each person on the team gives the update. What did they work on day before, what's planned for the day today, and if there are any issues, blockers, or something critical that needs to be addressed. Every single person goes through and answers these three simple questions, and then if there are problems, there are members on the team who can help out. So you're stuck on something, you bring somebody in quick, they help you out, everything's working out much quicker. So the idea is to keep everybody together. It takes about 15 minutes, depending on how big your team is and how much you want to talk about it. But in 15 minutes, you get enough updates from everybody to understand where you are, how you're progressing, and whether you need to course correct. And you do this every day. And then you let everybody go. Go do your work. The third part of Scrum process is actually getting the feedback from the stakeholders and the customers who will be using your product. That's the demo day. Demos usually done on Fridays, but it's up to the team lead to figure out what's the best day, is where you show off what you've done to the stakeholders, to the customers. And you want to get feedback from stakeholders and customers. Are you going in the right direction? Are you collecting enough information? In the case of the survey form, should we add another field? Does it make sense? Do we need to capture the email address, or do we need to capture the phone number? This is how you get feedback. You actually put what you've built within those 2 weeks, the sprint, in front of the customer and say, use it. Tell me if this works for you. After the demo, you want to gather more feedback, so you want to give this to as many customers as possible and capture as much feedback as you can. From that feedback, you create a new list or update your existing list of tasks, your backlog, so that when you plan your new sprint, you can prioritize and decide what you need to focus on based on your customer feedback, customer needs, and other constraints that are coming in, or stakeholders' ideas of what's most important. That's the demo. So now, if you take yourself through the whole process, you went from sprint planning to daily updates to delivering value to the customer, putting value in front of the customer and asking, does this work for you? And then finally, the fourth meeting of the Scrum process, and there should be no more than 4, maybe 5, but no more than 4 for our purposes, is the retrospective. This is the meeting where you gauge how your team is doing. Are they happy with progress? Are they being overworked? Are they stuck on something that's getting them down? This is the place where you recognize people who are doing work and saying, yes, thanks for doing a good job. This is a place for teammates to recognize each other and support each other. So a very important meeting, it's not even a meeting, a very important gathering of your team where they can connect and gauge how happy or how unhappy they are about the progress. And this is where you can do something about making maybe next you've been driving them too hard, right? Maybe the goal was too high and they couldn't accomplish it because of all sorts of different things that are happening outside. Maybe you need to scale down the goal so that the team is happy, because if the team is happy, they will deliver faster, more effective, and a better software, a better product. So that's what Scrum is in a nutshell. It's a way to deliver value to customer and gather feedback as quickly as possible while limiting the amount of meetings they need to have within your team and being able to change direction based on the feedback without costing too much money or resources to the company. So we've talked about what Scrum is and how it is used in software development and software application world. Now, how can you use Scrum framework in your business? There are many ways, there are several ways you can apply Scrum into your business, but the 2 most important ones are as follows. So method 1, you can take the Scrum process itself, so just the process of Scrum, and apply it to how you organize your team. It is known that well-organized teams produce better value and are more successful at completing work than not organized teams. So Scrum provides you with that ability. The very first thing you would do, and as if you follow the process, is to create decide on the 2 week or the sprint cycle. How long is your sprint cycle going to be? Usually 2 weeks is something that software development folks do, but it depends on your industry. For you, you can 1 week could be good, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, sometimes longer. It all depends on also the type of project that you're working on. Sometimes you can deliver value to the customer in 2 weeks, right? You might need to take 3 weeks. In construction, for example, 1 week could be a good sprint cycle because you can probably do something within 1 week. Maybe you do demolition, that takes 1 week. Maybe each room takes about a week. Maybe 2 weeks is better because you have to call in the trades from here and there, electrician, plumber, and all these things. So that takes time. So what you want to do is answer this question: how long would it take to deliver something, small piece of value, to your end user, customer, stakeholder, so you can collect feedback? And whatever that time frame is, that your sprint length. Having decided on a sprint length, the next step is to deliver on to create a backlog of tasks that you need to do so that you can figure out what you can do within the sprint within the sprint. So to do that, this is where the Scrum planning meeting comes in. You set it up on, say, Monday, and it's a 1 hour to 90-minute meeting. You bring everybody together, connect, and you figure out what you need to accomplish, what you need to do during the sprint, set the goal. So that's sprint planning meeting. Sprint planning meeting. That's two. Just as a side note for when to do the sprint planning meeting, most people will think of Monday as a good day to do sprint planning meeting, and it might work. There's another day that's, I think, is more suitable for planning in general. The Monday's planning is difficult because when people come back from a weekend, 2 days of having fun, doing their own thing, focusing on other things. When you come back on Monday, you kind of gotta restart your car, right? You restart your motor. Like, you gotta remember what you did the week before, how the demo was and all of that, and now you can plan. So that takes time. When you plan on Fridays, especially after the demo, you have just talked about what you've done, showed it off. You had a week of work, so you have the context. And then your mind is still in the work mode. You don't need to restart. You can do the planning session right there and then. So Monday, when Monday comes in, you go, all right, let's start work. Let's do this, do the stand up, and let's start work. Another benefit of doing Friday is because Friday's usually like that day where it's almost the weekend, so your mind's kind of halfway there, halfway here. But if you do demo, planning, and retro on Friday, your Friday, that one Friday out of the sprint, becomes the meeting Friday. And then the rest of the week is actually focused on doing work. So you've kind of putting all of the meetings that you need to do within one day and just and your mind's prepared for that, you're getting it done. Boom. Amazing. So third step is to set up the daily stand-up meetings where you do the updates. And it's very simple. Get everybody together, say at 9 o'clock, 9:30, 10, whatever it is, into one room. If it's Zoom, into one Zoom room, 15 minutes, talk about what you've done, what you're going to do, any problems. If you can't do that, people in different traveling, people in different time zones, all of that, you can have an email that comes in every day. Everybody just kind of adds to it, or use some sort of software like Notion or something to keep track of what everybody's done, what they're focusing on, and then just everybody gets that email every morning at set time. They'll read through it, see what's going on, and they can continue with the work. So you can even eliminate that meeting if you don't need to have it. So that's 3 stand-up. So sprint cycle, planning meeting, daily stand-up, finally demo and retro. Demo, set it up so that you can show it off to your stakeholders, show off what you've done to your stakeholders, and retro so that you can keep the pulse on your team. You recognize, if they're doing something good, get team members to talk about their issues, and just in general stay on top of all of the problems that you might be experiencing and addressing them right there and then. So that's the process. You can apply that tomorrow. Take a couple of days to get everybody on the same page, and off you go. You're already doing better than, I would say 50 to 60% of other teams out there, maybe even more. Method two. Method two is actually taking that next level step. So you've applied your process, you have all your meetings set up, you're doing your work, you're planning your sprints, you're setting goals. That's awesome. Next step is to begin to develop the mindset that Scrum is based on. And Scrum is based on four mindset principles. One, you need to embrace change. Embrace uncertainty and change. The thing about uncertainty is that it is certain, right? So you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, right? The customer might say, you know what, this is good enough. We don't want to pay you. We just want to take what we have. So that's uncertainty. Change. You might get some feedback from the customer, and the customer say, you know what, whichever way you were doing this doesn't work for me. I want to do it another way. So in construction, the customer wanted to buy this particular sink, but they saw something on sale, and you were measuring for this particular bit, and the customer comes in, I want to change it. You're like, you know what, we're doing sprints, we're doing Scrum. We haven't actually put in all of the bits together yet, so we can change the swap out the sink. So that's change. So embrace that. Teach your team to embrace that. So the second principle of Scrum is continuous learning and improvement. The thing about getting feedback from customers as you show them what you're working on, the progress, is that you get that chance to learn, to improve how you work. And you need to instill that in your team. So anything that you work on, maybe there's a better way. By communicating all the time and then, highlighting a problem, finding a solution within everybody being part of that process during the stand-up meetings, you helping them learn and improve continuously. So they get better as a result. So that's the principle number two. Principle number three is about empowerment and self-organization. What does that mean? In Scrum, the main idea is to eliminate the amount of touch points you have with your team. Like, you don't want your team to come to you all the time. Should I do this? Should I do that? Am I allowed to do this? How do I do this? What you want to be able to give somebody a goal, say, work towards this, and then let them be. Let them figure out how to do this. That's empowerment. That's autonomy. People value autonomy. And Scrum creates this foundation for that. And self-organization is, during the stand-up, you don't need to be in charge of deciding how to solve a problem. Somebody brings up a problem. You have your team together. Anybody should be empowered to say, you know what, I can help you. And then those two people can go and work together on solving that problem without you specifically assigning work. They can talk offline and then figure out how to work on things together. Let them work. Give them a goal and let them work. Finally, the fourth principle is focusing on delivering value. This is probably the most important bit, because at the end of each sprint, what you want value in customers' hands so that you can get feedback and you can course correct and you can deliver something that customer will pay you for and customer will be happy. So focusing on delivering value and putting that mindset into the team. When you're planning, what is our goal? Our goal is to build a form that will capture comments from users, from shoppers. All right, how is it valuable? It's going to be valuable because the customer will be able to see, if shoppers are actually liking what they're buying, right? That's value. Okay, delivering value. Teach your team how to focus on delivering value to customers. This eliminates this, work that produces no value. So to recap, the four mindsets of Scrum is embrace uncertainty and change, continuous learning and improvement, empowerment and self-organization for the team, and finally focus on delivering on value. And this is how you can adopt the Scrum framework, the Scrum mindset into your business and deliver good results, amazing results to your customers in a short amount of time and at less expense. Thanks for watching the Strategy Shift podcast. Let's make running your business easier.